Remember that, like, wave of panic that washes over you when you open that car insurance renewal and it's gone up again?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're diving into today. It's like this feeling that insurance companies are playing a different game.
Right.
A different game than the rest of us. You sent me some pretty wild articles, some research about insurance practices over the past few years.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some worrying stuff.
So we're going to unpack it all.
Yeah.
We're going to cut through all the jargon, figure out exactly how this impacts you. And trust me, it's more than just a few extra bucks.
Yeah, what's interesting is it's not just a feeling, those rising costs. It's a trend. It's affecting almost everyone.
Right.
Between 2020 and 2024, the whole insurance landscape seems to have just, I don't know.
Tilted.
Tilted. Yeah, that's a good word for it.
One report, I think it was, it might have been the NAIC one. They said the average homeowner's insurance jumped by 9.3% in 1 year.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Like, that's more than my grocery bill. If my grocery bill went up that much, I'd be living off, I don't know, ramen noodles.
Right, and that's just one part of it. Auto insurance, it's not far behind. Some areas, 10, even 12% increase just in the last year. And the data from the Insurance Information Institute, it shows this isn't just a one-off thing. Premiums are going through the roof across the board.
And to add insult to injury, they're raising these prices at the same time as they're taking away coverage.
Yeah.
It's like we're paying more for less every single year.
And again, unfortunately, you're right. That's exactly what we're seeing in the data. The NAIC, the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, they found that nearly 25% of the policies issued last year either had lower coverage limits or, get this, they added completely new exclusions.
Wow.
So you're right. It is a double whammy, paying more for less protection.
Okay, so it's not just me. It's not just in my head. But I've got to ask, who's getting hit the hardest by all of this?
Yeah.
Because some of the articles that you sent about California wildfire victims, those were heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Those were really tough to read.
Yeah, and they're perfect examples of how these trends are playing out in really, really difficult situations. So imagine you're living in a wildfire-prone area. You're already on edge, right?
Absolutely.
Every time the wind picks up. And then you open your insurance, and it's gone up 15-20%. And to make things even worse, they're reducing what they'll actually cover if a fire does hit. So it's this terrible combination of costs are going up, but the safety net, it's shrinking.
Yeah.
For the people who need it most.
Yeah, it's easy to see how those families would feel, I don't know, a bit abandoned almost.
Right.
Like the insurance companies are just hiding behind their spreadsheets and their risk calculations.
Yeah.
But it feels like they're exploiting people when they're at their most vulnerable.
Yeah.
When they're facing real danger.
Yeah, and that's the core issue here, because whilst insurers will point to things like increased costs from natural disasters, inflation, more expensive repairs, and these are legitimate things, These are all real factors. There is a growing question about whether those justifications are actually outweighing the burden that's being placed on policyholders, especially, as we've said, in these high-risk areas.
It sounds like we're moving away from risk assessment and moving into profiting off of people's worst fears.
Yeah.
Which is a bit icky.
It is, and it really boils down to this fundamental debate about the insurance industry. What is their responsibility? Is it solely to manage financial risk?
Right.
Or should there be a greater obligation to protect those who need it most, even if that means potentially accepting slightly lower profits?
Yeah. You're making me think about the bigger picture now. Let's unpack this whole idea of insurance as a safety net.
Yeah.
Is it still serving that purpose? Or has it become something else entirely? And just when you think, okay, can't get worse than this, I'll just budget, I'll make it work. You hear those horror stories about people getting their insurance claims denied,
right,
even when they thought they were covered.
Yeah.
It's like they're just waiting
Totally.
to catch us out.
It's gotcha.
On a technicality.
Exactly.
And the data backs this up, right? That CFA report that you sent, the Consumer Federation of America,
Yeah.
That was a wild one. In 2022, 22% of insurance claims were denied.
It's a lot.
That's a huge jump from, it was 13% in 2018.
Yeah, it's a staggering increase. And it really points to this trend of insurers trying to limit payouts.
Yeah.
Even when those claims are totally valid.
So it's like they're banking on us not reading the fine print.
Well, yeah.
Which, let's be honest, who does?
Right.
It's like, pages and pages.
It's so dense.
It's so dense.
Intentionally so.
Intentionally so.
Yeah.
Like some of that stuff, I swear they do it on purpose.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that we see quite often is they'll deny a claim based on a technicality.
Right.
So imagine this. Your basement floods.
Okay.
Right. You're freaking out. It's a disaster, right?
Old disaster.
Your claim gets denied because the insurer decides the damage was due to like gradual deterioration
Oh, come on.
over time
Right.
instead of a sudden covered event like a burst pipe.
So basically they're saying, well, you should have known that leaky faucet was going to turn into a swimming pool eventually.
Right. Like you should have seen this coming.
Give me a break.
It's just not right. It's a classic example of insurers using very vague language
Yeah.
to their advantage. And then you've got these anti-concurrent causation clauses.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, we're going to need a dictionary for that one. Break that down for me. Anti what?
Anti-concurrent causation.
Okay.
So imagine this. You're driving down the road.
Okay.
You hit a pothole.
Yep.
Big old pothole, and you get a flat tire.
Okay.
But when they look at your car, they say, but there was also a pebble in the tire tread.
Right.
So what these clauses do is they allow the insurer to blame the flat tire solely on that tiny little pebble,
Come on.
even though the pothole was the main cause.
Right, and the pothole is covered.
Exactly.
Yeah, the pebble, well, maybe.
Yeah, but the pothole, that's the thing you have insurance for.
Yes.
So even if you've got, coverage for both potholes and pebbles, they might still use this clause to get out of paying.
It's like they're shifting the burden of proof
Absolutely.
onto us.
Yep.
When we're the ones who are paying for the protection in the first place.
You're paying for peace of mind, and you're just getting
Grace.
more stress. And then on top of all of that, you've got all this new technology,
Don't even get me started.
the telematics,
Yes.
these devices in your car.
It feels like a whole new way to deny claims.
It is.
Like it's not even subtle.
It's becoming a really big problem.
Right.
So more and more, we're seeing insurance companies use these devices
Okay.
that monitor how you drive. They track everything. Your speed, how hard you brake, even what time of day you're on the road.
So Big Brother's officially in the passenger seat now.
Pretty much, yeah. And the problem is that this data is being used to deny claims
Really?
even when there hasn't been an accident.
Wait, so even if I haven't even had so much as a parking ticket,
Right.
they can still use that information against me.
That's what's happening, yeah.
How is that fair?
That's the question, isn't it?
Mm.
That J.D. Power report that we talked about earlier found that something like 14%
Wow.
of denied auto insurance claims were linked to this telematics data.
No.
So the insurance companies are justifying it by saying, well, this data shows risky driving behavior.
Right. But without an accident.
Yeah, exactly.
That's, I don't know. It just feels like we're getting into dangerous territory. Like, where do you draw the line between using that data to encourage safe driving,
Right.
which I think everyone can get behind,
Sure.
but using it as an excuse not to pay out on a claim that you're supposed to pay out on?
Right.
That's just not, that's not right.
It's a slippery slope, isn't it?
Yeah. It feels like a slippery slope, yeah. It definitely brings up those questions of fairness
Big time.
and privacy,
Hmm.
which are big, important questions. Okay, so let's say by some miracle, we dodged all those bullets.
Right.
Our claim gets approved. We're not in the clear yet, though, are we?
Not necessarily, no.
Because then we get hit with the lowball offer,
Yeah.
the payout. That's so insulting. You're like, did you even read my claim?
Right. They're hoping you're just going to roll over.
Yeah.
They're banking on people being too stressed, too busy to fight for what they deserve.
And you know what? A lot of times it works. That Insurance Claims Bureau statistic, was it something like 30% of people who took the cash settlement ended up taking 15, 20% less than what it actually cost them to repair things?
Yeah. They get worn down. It just highlights that power imbalance. You know, the insurance companies have the experts. They've got the time
All the resources.
to drag these things out. And most people, they've got lives, They can't put everything on hold to fight with their insurance company.
But especially when, a lot of times these claims come after some sort of traumatic event.
Right.
Whether it's a natural disaster, maybe it's a car accident. You're already dealing with so much. And now you've got to become like an insurance expert
Exactly.
just to get what you're owed.
Yeah, and that's what was so upsetting about, those stories that we were talking about. The homeowners in Louisiana after Hurricane Ida.
Oh, my.
Imagine your home's devastated. You've had to relocate. You could be waiting months.
I read it was like a year in some cases.
Yeah, a year. For your insurance to even come through, the emotional strain alone?
Forget it.
It's unimaginable.
It's just, yeah. And then even when they do approve those claims, they drag their feet, they dispute every little thing.
Oh, absolutely. We see this all the time, especially after a large-scale event. They'll argue over whether the damage was caused by wind or by water.
Right, correct.
Just trying to avoid paying out what they owe. It really is a case of, profits over people.
Yeah, yeah. It's not, right.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we haven't even gotten into the repairs.
Right.
Because even when those happen, what are the chances that they're done properly?
Yeah, and this is another really critical part of it, this impact on the contractors themselves.
Yeah.
Because insurance companies are squeezing them
Right.
with these low payment rates.
Right. And that, of course, then trickles down to the quality of the work.
Exactly.
The quality of the work that the policyholders are getting.
Which at the end of the day is what it's all about.
Right.
You're trying to get your home, your car, whatever it is, fixed. And if they're squeezing the contractors, they're going to cut corners.
Makes sense.
Uh-huh.
The APCIA, they had that report. They said there was a 12% drop
Wow.
in contractor rates from 2019 to 2021.
That's huge.
It's huge. So, of course, it's harder to find, someone who's reputable,
All right.
who's actually qualified.
Yeah. They're going to go out of business.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how we end up in these situations
Yeah.
with here are our preferred providers.
Right. The network.
This is our network. You have to use one of these people. And it sounds good on paper.
Right. We're doing you a favor.
We're doing you a favor.
Yeah.
But I don't know, makes me a little nervous.
And rightly so. Not all preferred providers are created equal. That Better Business Bureau report, 20% of insurance-recommended contractors had either unresolved complaints against them or they weren't even properly certified.
So you're basically rolling the dice.
It's a gamble.
With your home, with your car.
Yeah.
That this person that your insurance company picked knows what they're doing.
Exactly. And we've seen it time and time again, those shoddy repairs. They lead to more damage. They create safety hazards.
Right.
It's a recipe for disaster.
And then you're back to fighting with the insurance company again. Right.
Exactly. More stress.
It's a vicious cycle. We talked about those Texas homeowners. They had the hailstorm.
Yeah.
They got, strong-armed into using this cheap contractor.
Right.
They're having to deal with the leaky roof. It just goes to show these practices end up hurting everybody in the long run.
Yeah, they really do. It's short-sighted.
So the big question, is anybody doing anything about this?
Yeah, I mean,
because this is bad.
It's bleak, but there is some good news. There's definitely a growing awareness of these practices, and we are starting to see some positive developments.
Okay, good.
On a state level, we're starting to see some real change. California, they've been cracking down on insurers who use that really confusing language to deny claims. And Louisiana, after those Hurricane Ida cases, they actually passed a law requiring insurers to provide clearer explanations if they do deny a claim, and they put some limits on how long they can delay those settlements for.
That's amazing. So states are stepping up to the plate. What about on a national level?
Well, the NAIC, the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, they've been working on guidelines to try and bring in more transparency to this whole claims process.
Okay.
So they're pushing for things like clearer explanations of those coverage changes, more detailed reasons for denials, just trying to level the playing field a little bit.
So that's a good first step. But those are just guidelines, right?
Right, exactly. And unfortunately, they're not legally binding.
Okay, so they can suggest, but they can't enforce. Got it. Okay, and what about, FEMA, obviously they stepped in after those big hurricanes.
They have. They've definitely stepped up their oversight, especially with those big disaster-related claims.
Okay.
But it is slow.
It's a slow process.
Yeah, it's a bureaucracy.
So no magic solution from the feds just yet?
Not yet, no. We haven't seen any kind of comprehensive federal legislation that actually addresses these systemic issues.
Okay, so what can we do?
Right.
Like, what can our listeners do right now to protect themselves?
Well, knowledge is power. First and foremost, dust off those insurance policies.
Yeah.
Read them. If anything's unclear, even the tiniest little thing, call up your agent.
Don't feel bad.
Call up the insurance company. Get them to explain it.
Because a lot of times, there are stupid questions.
Yeah.
But with insurance, there's really not. Because it's so confusing.
It's so dense, and it feels like it's designed to confuse you, honestly.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to ask for help. And if you do feel like you're being treated unfairly, push back.
Yeah.
File complaints, reach out to those consumer protection agencies, write to your elected officials, let them know that you want to see stronger consumer protections.
Love it. Love it. So it's about using your voice individually and also collectively
Yeah.
to demand better. And this isn't even just about insurance anymore. This
Right.
is about fairness. It's about transparency. It's about holding these really powerful institutions accountable.
Yeah.
100%. And it's something we're all going to have to think about more and more as technology gets more advanced, as we're seeing more and more data collection. How do we ensure that insurance, a system that is at its heart intended for protection,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
doesn't become a tool for exploitation?
That is a great question.
It's something we all need to be thinking about.
It is. It's a conversation starter for sure.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, to everyone listening, arm yourself with information, know your rights, and don't be afraid to fight.
Yeah.
Because you know what? We can make a difference.
We can.
We can do this. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.